You ever walk up to a place you've known your whole life, a place tied to every memory of your family, and find out it's gone, no warning, no explanation, just vanished, replaced with a cookie-cutter suburb full of manicured lawns and pastel beige houses? That's what hit me like a punch in the gut the day I stood at what used to be the entrance to my dad's 80-acre property. Now there's a fancy wrought iron gate, a row of designer mailboxes, and a sign that reads Meadowbrook Estates residents only. I counted 58 nearly identical houses just to be sure I wasn't losing my mind. And as I'm standing there, this woman heels, clicking like gunshots, pearls so tight they might as well be a choke chain, marches right up to me. "Excuse me," she says with a smile that could cut diamonds. "This is private property. Meadowbrook Estates residents and guests only." For a second, I'm so stunned, all I can say is, there must be some mistake. "This is my land, my father's land." She laughs. Not a polite laugh, more like I just told her the moon was made of cheese. "I'm Emma Johnson, HOA president," she says, "and I can assure you this is definitely not your land. Now I suggest you leave before I call the police for trespassing." My fingers tightened around the property deed in my pocket, the one with my grandfather's name on it from 1947. I could already tell this was about to get wild. But hang on, let me rewind a bit. You need to know how a guy ends up face to face with an HOA president who's apparently annexed his whole family's farm. My dad passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. It hit fast, it hit hard. Suddenly I was at his funeral deed in hand, inheriting this big rolling patch of Pennsylvania countryside creek on the east, old-growth woods on the west fields my dad worked his whole life to keep in the family. Problem was timing. Couldn't have been worse. I just signed a 2-year contract on a demolition project in Dubai, the kind of deal that could finally let me expand my company and maybe settle down for real. Dad told me, "Go. Build your future, son. This land isn't going anywhere." So I left our neighbor, Mr. Henderson, in charge. The guy was sharp as a tack, lived right next door, sent me photos and updates every week. Everything seemed fine until it wasn't. Henderson died in his sleep just like that, and nobody told me for weeks. I was buried under the Dubai project, no flights home, no way to leave. After that, the property was empty, unwatched. That's when Emma Johnson saw her chance. My lawyer Marcus spread the documents out on his desk, shaking his head. County seals, notary stamps, the works looked official, but he spotted the tells right away. Forgeries. According to official records, the property was declared abandoned for unpaid taxes, auctioned off, and bought by Emma Johnson herself for a whopping $4,700. $4,700 for 80 acres. Marcus looks at me dead serious and says, "Emma's husband, Dale Johnson. He's deputy county administrator, handles property records, oversees tax assessments." My stomach dropped. Of course. She married the one guy who could fake an entire paper trail and cover her tracks. And it gets better. She subdivided the land, sold 58 lots to a developer for $4.2 million. And in under 15 months, these houses went up. The families who lived there most paid between $300,000 and $450,000 for their dream home. Kids, dogs, minivans, all that, just regular folks with no idea they were buying into a giant fraud. So now I'm stuck, deed in one hand, betrayal in the other, wondering what happens to all these people if I fight to get my land back. Are they supposed to just pack up and go? Marcus says, if we win, they lose their homes. But if we do nothing, Emma gets away with it. That night I went back and just sat there watching the families coming home, kids riding bikes, couples walking dogs, porch lights flickering on. I started to feel sick. This land's been in my family for generations, and now it's a playground for HOA politics and cheap construction. But I wasn't about to let Emma get away with it. The next morning I marched into the HOA office. Used to be someone's house, now it looked like a bank lobby. Emma looked up from her computer, eyes narrowing. "You again?" I thought I made myself clear. I shut the door. "Listen, I have the original deed, tax records, death certificate, will. This is my land and you know it." She barely blinked. "That's adorable," she said. "You've got some old papers. My husband oversees county records. The county says I bought this property fair and square. You want to fight? Take me to court. 5 years and $500,000 later, maybe you win. Then what, you gonna bulldoze 58 houses, make families homeless, How's that going to look on the evening news? For a second, there was a flicker in her eyes. Not guilt, just calculation. She'd gamed this out already, had every angle covered. Good luck, honey. You're chasing ghosts. Then she opens the door and calls security. Get out. I left because I had to. Not because she scared me, but because she'd made one big mistake. She thought I was just some grieving son out of his depth. She didn't know I make a living tearing things down literally and figuratively. Marcus hooked me up with Rebecca Stone, a private investigator with a reputation for sniffing out fraud, and David Kim, a forensic document guy who's testified in federal court 100 times. If there was a crack in Emma's story, they'd find it. 3 weeks later, we met in Marcus's office, papers everywhere, timelines, bank records, everything. Rebecca's first words, Dale Johnson gets promoted to deputy county administrator. Within a year, your property gets flagged as abandoned. A tax notice is supposedly mailed to you, but there's no tracking, no certified mail, nothing. Just a ghost in the system. Someone with inside access faked the record. Emma's friend Thomas Webb processed the paperwork. He's scared, but he kept copies of everything. Emails, texts, handwritten notes. He's got his own insurance policy in case Emma tries to throw him under the bus. David found forged signatures, scanned county seals, everything done with inside knowledge. They used genuine county paper stock, had to be Dale. Rebecca found Webb and convinced him to talk. He was terrified, but if we got him immunity, he'd testify. Piece by piece, the scam came together. Emma targeted my property as soon as Mr. Henderson died. Dale flagged it. As abandoned. Webb faked the tax records. They ran a sham auction, and Emma bought it for peanuts. She subdivided, sold the lots, and kept control by running the HOA. Even better, she set up a shell company owned by her sister, raking in $34,800 a month in HOA fees, over $400,000 a year, pure profit. And that's before you count the kickbacks from vendors, overpriced landscaping, pool services, security, you name it. All told, they'd pocketed almost $7 million from my land. At that point, I realized I had to talk to the homeowners. I started with the Millers, a young couple who'd put their life savings into their house. When I explained what happened, showed them the real deed, they were stunned. "So our house isn't ours," Sarah whispered. "You bought it in good faith. You're a victim too. But legally, the land is still mine." It was the same with most families, shocked, angry, betrayed. Some of Emma's loyalists, the ones she'd given perks to, spread rumors about me, painted me as the villain. At the next HOA meeting, Emma dragged me through the mud in front of everyone. "This man wants to make you homeless. He forged documents. He's a crook." I tried to speak up, but she had security escort me out. That's when Sarah Miller stood up. "I've seen his documents. They're real." "Emma, can you show us the original paperwork?" Emma dodged, said it was confidential, slammed her gavel, and adjourned the meeting. But the cracks were showing. Then came the twist. Rebecca found new building permits for 40 more houses on the last 22 acres of my land, permits signed with my forged signature. Emma was already cashing in, had sold the lots to a new developer for another $1.8 million in deposits. Her greed was endless. But she was getting sloppy. Emails between Emma and the developer found through subpoena showed her bragging that her husband controlled the county records, that nobody could prove the fraud. We took everything to the state attorney general and the FBI. Marcus called it the War Council. Me. Marcus, Rebecca, David, and a new face, Jennifer Park, a forensic accountant who'd helped take down embezzlement rings. The evidence was airtight. Webb was ready to testify. Jennifer traced money flowing through Emma's shell companies into personal accounts and right out to vendor kickbacks. We filed a criminal complaint, a civil suit, and a quiet title action to get my land back. Emma, sensing trouble, went full attack. She started slapping bogus HOA fines on me, $500 a day for having my trailer parked on the edge of the property, for demolition equipment, even for failure to maintain landscaping. The county building inspector showed up waving orders signed by Dale Johnson. I laughed, snapped a photo, told him to talk to my lawyer. Next, Emma went public, held a press conference, painted me as a greedy developer, said I was trying to scam families out of their homes. But for every lie she told, there was now someone in the crowd like Jake Miller or Carlos Martinez standing up and asking real questions. If everything's legit, why can't we see the original purchase records? Emma would shut them down, but the doubt was spreading. The homeowners started organizing quiet meetings in kitchens at the playground away from Emma's spies. They told me stories about her, how she doubled HOA fees, fined people for nonsense, hired her sister's company at triple the normal price. They were scared but fed up. And then the real bombshell, Emma got greedy and tried to move the boundary markers, file surveys that claimed she owned land that actually belonged to the state forest. That's a federal crime. The FBI was now very interested. Once the evidence was all lined up, witnesses, documents, bank records, emails, phone recordings, Emma panicked, tried to run, bought a one-way ticket to Costa Rica, stuffed $47,000 in cash in her bag, but the FBI was waiting. Dale got arrested at his office. Webb cooperated fully. Dale, desperate to save himself, blamed Emma for everything, admitted she'd masterminded the entire operation. During the trial, I sat in court watching Emma in an orange jumpsuit, no pearls, no designer sunglasses, just a woman stripped of all power. The jury didn't take long, guilty on all counts. Emma got 12 years. Dale got 8. Webb got probation for flipping early. But that wasn't the end. I couldn't just bulldoze these families' homes. So Marcus, the homeowners, and I came up with a plan. We'd use the restitution money seized from Emma and Dale to let every family buy their land at cost, about $3,000 each, with payment plans if needed. For 5 families who couldn't afford it, I paid the difference myself. The HOA was dissolved, a new one was formed, run by the residents, Carlos Martinez as president, Sarah and Jake on the board. They renamed it Henderson Fields after my dad and Mr. Henderson. Months passed and the place changed. The houses, once identical, started showing real character. Kids' bikes on porches, barbecue smoke in the air, neighbors actually talking to each other. I kept 20 acres fixed up the old homestead. My demolition company helped bring all the houses up to code, no profit, just the right thing to do. One day Emma's daughter Ashley showed up. She was nothing like her mother, soft-spoken, apologetic. She'd broken ties years ago, wanted nothing to do with Emma's scams. She handed out letters of apology to every family. Later, I got a letter from a guy in Oregon, a victim of Emma and Dale years earlier, before they'd settled here. Their scam had ruined his life, but now, with Emma in prison, he finally saw justice. A year after the sentencing, the community threw a barbecue. Carlos gave a speech, thanked me for standing up to Emma, for giving everyone a second chance. They'd built a playground, a memorial garden, put up a stone marker with my dad's name and Mr. Henderson's. Sarah Miller, tears in her eyes, pulled me aside. "We misjudged you," she said. "You could have just walked away. You did this because it was right." And honestly, that's the whole point. My father always said, character is what you do when nobody's watching. This wasn't about revenge. It was about doing what's right, even when it cost you. Emma thought her power made her untouchable. She thought she could buy people off, bury the truth, outlast anyone who challenged her. What she never understood is integrity's a stubborn thing. It'll outlast greed every time, even if it takes years and every ounce of fight you've got. So let me ask you, have you ever been pushed around by someone in power? Ever felt like fighting back was pointless, like the odds were stacked against you? Did you stand up, or do you wish you had? Tell me your story in the comments. Let's remind each other that community and truth really are stronger than the Emmas of this world. And hey, if this story made you feel something, share it. Maybe there's someone out there who needs to know that justice is still possible, even when it feels hopeless. You've got more power than you think. Use it, and thanks for listening.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.